The entertainment industry has ridden the highs of popular film genres throughout its entire existence. And one of the most popular genres for movies has, by far, been the Western. For a period of 20 years, the Western movie experienced its golden age in Hollywood before coming to its inevitable end of saturation. Of course, Westerns still are getting made, but they have nowhere near the grip on media that they did in those golden years. And it's beginning to look that way for superheroes, too. For the last 17 years, superheroes have been everywhere. Whether they appeared in the form of TV shows, or movies, or a combination of the two, audiences have gotten used to seeing capes and superpowers in every form and used in every way across all platforms and streaming services. Maybe a little too used to seeing them, in fact. The release of Marvel's Iron Man in 2008 signaled the beginning of an unprecedented period of movies in the entertainment industry. Marvel would go on to be a juggernaut that couldn't be stopped for the next 10 years, where everything they produced was absolute gold, from Captain America to Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. Characters that were complete unknowns before this turned into household names under the MCU brand, as the franchise worked and grew to its insane conclusion of Thanos and the Infinity Saga. Marvel, of course, wasn't the only brand that was furiously producing content, though they were leading the pack at the time. DC and Warner Brothers saw their success and immediately tried to cash in with movies like Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Wonder Woman. They even tried their hand with lesser-known characters like Shazam and Black Adam. The CW was producing shows like Arrow and The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman, all of which are now, thankfully and unlamentably, finished or canned. Netflix, of course, was producing Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, some of whom were really good, and others that had mixed results. Movie after movie, year after year, no matter the characters or subject of the film, superheroes had our near undivided attention. Even for the poorer films like Batman vs. Superman or Thor: The Dark World, the conversation around superhero films was still rabid enough to keep the attention of the general watching audience. We loved the over-the-top action, the unique characters, and the motivations driving each and every movie. Yes, the villains weren't always great, but we loved the heroes so much that it made up for any shortcomings. Yes, sometimes the dialogue was clunky or the CGI was weird and unfinished, but it didn't matter because the heroes were still awesome, still inspiring, still super. Whether it was the godlike powers of Superman or Wonder Woman on full display, or Cap's inspiring speeches and the team shots of the Avengers all working together in tandem to save New York and the world at large, we loved every single minute of it and wanted to know what was coming next. For over a decade, superhero properties were almost guaranteed successes, no matter who they were or what the movie was about. Marvel benefited the most from this period in time because their step-by-step approach to creating a world that all led up to the culmination of Thanos and the Infinity Stones had fans frothing at the mouth for each new installment and ready to spend their money no matter who it was that they were going to see. But all good things have to come to an end, and in the last few years since the end of the pandemic, Marvel and superheroes in general have seen a steep decline in revenue, in interest, and in streaming views. The rise of Disney Plus put Marvel and its superheroes right at our fingertips and promised new shows with episodes every week, so we wouldn't have to wait for the movies any longer. The MCU was getting bigger and bigger, broadening its horizons and creating new worlds and characters that we didn't have to go to the movies to see. We just had to buy a subscription. Older characters like Scarlet Witch and Bucky Barnes, Nick Fury, Daredevil, and Loki got new life to their stories, while other characters like Miss Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Jennifer Walters, Echo, Agatha, and Ironheart all got their own spin-offs in order to increase the interest and the content that was being put out to attract more viewers. The X-Men have been brought back in the form of Wolverine, and Disney already has plans in place to recast these characters and hopefully revitalize the whole genre with fresh blood. They've already done this with the most recent Fantastic Four film to mixed results, and there aren't any plans to slow down anytime soon, what with Avengers Doomsday on the horizon. The DC universe has continued their forward march in recasting Clark Kent after the departure of Henry Cavill. Projects in the works include Supergirl, Peacemaker Season 2, and Clayface, of all things, signaling a bizarre start to a franchise that has seen more starts and stops than a backfiring jalopy. And speaking of stops, 2025 has been a year for Marvel, in that every project up until the Fantastic Four, and the jury is still out on that one, has been an abject failure, with either poor ratings, disappointing to abysmal revenue streams, and stories that have fallen off a cliff in comparison to what they once were. A recasted Captain America spelled disaster for that specific franchise, and contrary to what they were once able to do with obscure characters, none of the Thunderbolts, aside from maybe Bucky Barnes, whose actor seemed to be phoning it in the entire time he was on screen, will become household names anytime soon. Daredevil Born Again was simply a nothing project in comparison to the life and fan base it gained on Netflix, and for all of their pontificating about the necessity of diversity within their shared universe, Marvel desperately tried to bury shows like Echo and Ironheart in order to minimize the brand damage they themselves have been perpetuating for years. And so what is the result of all this? A collection of strange, mismatched stories that don't seem to have any origin and aren't really leading anywhere exciting? An amalgamation of characters that no one knows or cares about? Chasing after the tides of the glory days but only managing to produce slop as a result? It sure looks like it, because the box office figures for all of these projects have been tepid to complete flops. And if even Superman is not a roaring box office success like we all know Warner Brothers is praying that it will be, then there really is only one question to ask. Are superheroes done? Have we finally reached the end of superhero popularity? And if so, then how did we get here? And how, if possible, can we get back? And do we even want to? The answers to those questions can be understood only after the reasons for superhero decline are revealed. And there are many reasons for the fall from grace that superhero movies have taken at the box office. But here are some of the most obvious. There was a time not too long ago, in fact, when superheroes and epic or even just poignant speeches were synonymous with each other. Whether they were speeches to give encouragement or raise people's spirits or even to inspire others before heading into a tight conflict, superheroes often showed their heroism through the words they used, not just the actions that they took. Captain America was particularly famous for this throughout Chris Evans' nearly decade-long run as Steve Rogers. There are several speeches that he gives throughout the Avengers films that I still think about to this day, that never fail to make me stop and think about the many meanings behind them. Barring him, there are other heroes like Batman who have offered words that are still remembered and pondered on. The ability to be both sincere and impart some form of wisdom to others is one of the defining traits of a good superhero, whether they are giving it to a crowd or giving it to a friend or their fellow heroes. And it seems as if sincerity is a lost art in Hollywood these days, and not just in superhero movies. But because these films have dominated the box office for so long, their lack of sincerity is instantly noticeable. For as much as I appreciated what James Gunn has done for the MCU, he is certainly a perpetrator of this problem in the most recent Superman movie. A great many moments that could have been sincere were overshadowed by bizarre and unnecessary humor that felt shoehorned in just for some cheap laughs. Whether it was Superman getting kicked in the family jewels or Crypto pile-driving Lex Luthor in one of the only interesting moments of sincerity that the movie had, Superman, who is supposed to be a sincere character, was just turned into another focal point of insincere satire for Gunn. That's to say nothing of the insincere atrocities that the MCU has committed in the forms of Thor or Ant-Man. The latter is mocked for his part in saving the world. Who could forget the Emmy Award-winning play depicting Odin's death and the coming of Hela in Love and Thunder? Thor being stripped naked in front of Zeus, or once again choosing to forego his responsibilities as king at the end of Endgame. The list continues on into the MCU shows where heroism is mocked by She-Hulk as being for narcissists, Nick Fury is completely degraded in the form of alien immigration, and Ironheart mocks and envies Tony Stark for his money. We can't forget about Daredevil being made a fool of in his solo show, and in the hazing ritual that was She-Hulk, and of course, Agatha all along making fun of everything, itself included. I could go on, but the examples would just continue to depress me. Is it any wonder that when movies like Top Gun Maverick or Godzilla -1 come around, they make their weight in gold? Audiences are begging for some form of sincerity where we have only gotten satire, bitterness, and scorn. A character or a story moment being genuine lasts for far longer in a person's mind than a quick quip or a moment of sarcasm. Levity is good, but only when the humor is organic and calls for it. The insincerity in these movies distracts and detracts from genuine moments of character growth or heroism. It encourages the audience to not take anything seriously, no matter how serious the circumstance is or was. Heroes are now things to be laughed at or disregarded as a thing of the past. We can no longer see superheroes and wish to emulate them because they've been turned into complete jokes by writers and directors who genuinely think that making light of icons is funny, or else just don't know how to write them. If it's the former, the problem is fixable simply by termination from their positions. But if it's the latter, then superheroes might never look the same way again. Actions often follow words, or at least they should with superheroes. Daring feats of bravery and heroism are pretty much par for the course for every superhero ever, and are the best way to back up their actions and show completeness. There have been tons of acts of heroism simply for heroism's sake throughout both the Marvel universes and the DC universes, no matter who is doing it or what the circumstances are. It's a superhero staple that great acts of service are just part of their repertoire. Whether it's Spider-Man saving an entire train full of people, Superman saving others from a collapsing oil rig in the North Sea, the Avengers teaming up to save civilians in the streets of Sokovia from a vengeful Ultron, or Wonder Woman saving a bank full of hostages from terrorists. Superheroes have always been defined by what they say and how they save. Oftentimes, they save people in the most insane and bombastic ways possible, but save people nonetheless. And there are often others who will join in on their fight no matter who they are because they believe in the cause that the hero is trying to save or build or maintain. That's one of the reasons that superheroes are so awesome, because they inspire others to acts of service and greatness also. And sometimes that fight will cost others their lives, but in the name of saving others, they have decided that it does not matter, and so they will give their all to see the job done. Acts of service are what define a hero, and of course, the more daring depends on which superhero that is being talked about. But unfortunately, most of what we call superheroes in the last few years have become anything but. It's particularly frustrating because some of these characters were heroes at the end of the Infinity Saga, only to turn around and exchange ideologies, put their needs before the well-being of the many, or were just generally selfish and dangerous criminals that needed to be put away. From mentally enslaving an entire town, to bringing about genocide, to being a remorseless murderer, an eager and willing criminal, a straight-up narcissist, and everything in between, there have been far too many so-called superheroes whose acts of service and heroism have been non-existent. All of them have been selfish, self-serving, self-absorbed, self-obsessed, morally degenerate pieces of humanity that do not deserve the title of superhero. They are all jealous, envious, vengeful, ignorant humans who are more obsessed with their own self-righteousness than those who are actually in need. And as a result of this, we don't really have superheroes any longer. We have high-powered divas who don't really talk and act like real human beings. And those aren't superheroes. Those are dictators and overlords. I mentioned in an earlier video that there is a reason that people look up to superheroes. Whether it's for their acts of heroism or the great power that they possess, superheroes hold a unique place in pop culture. But chief among all those things are the unshaken values that they have either built for themselves or just have always had. One of the main reasons Steve Rogers was so beloved was for that example. He listened and cared for others, but at the end of the day, he was going to do what was right no matter who else disagreed or was standing against him. It didn't matter how difficult it was or who he would have to fight. His values and principles were unshakable, enough that he was willing to die for them before he ever had a chance to really live. We also can't forget about Spider-Man, who took the powers that he had extremely seriously and lived selflessly, both in the costume and out of it. But these days, morality equates to what I want. If they want true love, they will take it, no matter the cost. If they want a happy ending, they will take that, no matter if they have to hurt people. If they want power and recognition and fame, they will go after it no matter what they have to do. And we are expected to believe that these are our new superheroes, who do not believe in accountability or hard work or selflessness or acts of service at all, who will lie and cheat and steal and manipulate to get what they want. The audience is noticing this trend and they are responding with their dollars and attention, and as a result, superheroes are dying out. All of the heroes we have known and loved for all the reasons in this video are now gone, and those producing the movies and shows either don't understand them or can't be bothered to. Superhero movies have, at best, become content and not stories, and at worst, they have become a deconstruction of everything we have once loved about the superhero themselves. The so-called superheroes we have now have become terrible people who we want to see face justice rather than continue existing as they are and defaming the titles that they have. And until Hollywood understands this, until they cease to make a mockery of our heroes and return them to the forms that we knew and loved, superhero movies will go the way of the Western, never to return to their previous glory. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. What do you think of the decline of the superhero, and will we ever be able to get them back? Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and let the conversations begin. Until next time, everyone.